Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Today we're tackling a topic that's crucial for anyone even thinking about a major construction project.
The CCDC 14 contract.
You're about to make a serious investment.
And just like you wouldn't build a house on shaky ground,
Right.
you don't want to start a project with a shaky contract.
Couldn't agree more.
As an expert in Canadian construction law, I've seen firsthand how a well-drafted contract can be the difference between a smooth project and a legal nightmare.
Okay, so let's break down exactly what makes the CCDC 14 tick.
Imagine this, you're creating a one-of-a-kind cake.
Right.
Instead of running around to find a baker, a cake designer,
You find this awesome bakery that does both.
they take your vision and handle every detail from the first sketch to the final sprinkle.
That's essentially the design-build concept at the heart of the CCDC 14.
What's fascinating about this is how it contrasts with the traditional approach to construction.
In the past, you'd hire an architect for the design phase.
Then find a separate contractor for the actual building.
Right.
This often led to miscommunication
Totally.
and even finger-pointing when issues arose.
The CCDC 14 promotes a more collaborative,
Streamlined approach by combining those roles into a single entity, the design builder.
right.
So instead of playing referee between two teams,
The CCDC 14 helps create one cohesive unit from the get-go.
but what specifically makes it a good fit for, say,
My construction project.
why choose this over other options?
For starters, the CCDC 14 is a standardized contract.
Meaning it's been carefully developed by experts to address common construction challenges.
This brings a level of clarity and predictability that's invaluable for everyone involved.
Okay.
It also operates on a stipulated price basis.
Essentially a fixed price.
This helps you, the listener, budget more effectively and minimizes the risk of those dreaded cost overruns that can derail a project.
Fixed prices in construction music to any owner's ears, right?
But what if something unexpected comes up?
Let's be honest, construction can be full of surprises.
Absolutely, and that's where the contract's flexibility comes into play.
The CCDC 14 outlines specific procedures for handling changes to the project scope.
Ensuring that any adjustments are handled fairly and transparently for both you and the design builder.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty of those procedures,
Let's take a closer look at how the CCDC 14 is structured.
okay, so if we think of the contract as a roadmap,
Where does it lead us?
it all starts with the agreement,
This section lays the groundwork,
outlining the project's scope,
the agreed-upon price.
and what happens if modifications are needed down the line.
Think of it as establishing the foundation for your construction journey.
So we've got the foundation in place with the agreement.
What comes next on our CCDC 14 roadmap?
Next up is the definitions section.
This might seem like a no-brainer,
Okay.
but clearly defining all those technical terms is essential
Yeah.
to avoid misunderstandings down the road.
We're talking about everything from
Site and drawing.
to more nuanced terms that could have different interpretations in a legal context. Think of it as ensuring everyone's speaking the same language from day one.
Makes sense.
It's like making sure everyone on a construction site knows exactly what a 2x4 refers to
Precise.
before they start building walls.
Now, once we have our terms straight,
Okay,
we move on to the heart of the contract.
the general conditions.
This section is critical for you, the listener.
Because it outlines the responsibilities of both you and the design builder.
Sets up payment schedules,
Clarifies insurance requirements.
and even lays out procedures for resolving disputes.
It's like the project's operating manual, right?
Exactly.
And within those general conditions, a key concept is risk allocation.
Basically, who's responsible for what if something goes wrong?
Okay.
One of the significant advantages of the CCDC 14,
Is that it shifts a large portion of the risk.
particularly those related to design errors
Construction defects.
and coordination issues.
On to the design builder.
So if the contractor accidentally builds the bathroom backwards,
I'm not left-footing the bill for a complete redo.
you got it.
While I certainly hope no bathrooms are built in reverse.
You've illustrated the point perfectly.
The CCDC 14 incentivizes the design builder to be meticulous in their planning and execution.
Because they bear the responsibility for those aspects of the project?
That's reassuring.
But it also makes me wonder,
If the contract shifts so much of the risk to the design builder,
what's left for me to worry about as the owner?
that's where your due diligence comes in.
Well, the CCDC 14 aims to streamline the process and allocate risk fairly.
It doesn't mean you can just sit back and relax.
Okay.
You, the listener, are still responsible for providing accurate and complete information up front.
Such as
Seek site surveys,
geotechnical reports,
permits.
and any existing documentation about the property.
Essentially, you're providing the design builder with all the pieces of the puzzle.
They can't be held accountable if a piece is missing because you didn't provide it.
It's a partnership after all.
Each party has a role to play in ensuring the project's success.
Speaking of partnerships,
One of the things that stood out to me about the CCDC 14 is its emphasis on collaboration.
it seems like the contract is designed to foster a more team-oriented approach.
Absolutely.
The CCDC 14 recognizes that the best construction projects are the result of effective communication and collaboration.
This is especially important when dealing with those inevitable surprises that crop up during a project.
Surprises like what?
Give me an example.
Let's say you're excavating for the foundation.
And encounter unexpected soil conditions.
Okay.
Maybe the ground is rockier than anticipated based on the initial reports.
This wasn't something explicitly accounted for in the original plans.
But it needs to be addressed.
Right.
This is where the CCDC 14's flexibility comes in.
So it's not like hitting the pause button on the entire project.
Well, everyone panics about going back to the drawing board.
Not at all.
The contract outlines procedures for what are called change orders or change directives.
Okay.
These are formal mechanisms for the owner and design builder to agree on modifications to the contract.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Tell me more about these change orders and how they work in practice.
What's the difference between a change order and a change directive?
A change directive is used when the owner needs to make a change quickly
Maybe due to an emergency or safety concern?
and doesn't have time to fully negotiate the price and schedule implications with the design builder.
Okay.
It allows the work to proceed while those details are ironed out.
A change order, on the other hand,
Is a mutually agreed upon change to the contract.
typically involving adjustments to the project scope
So the press.
or the timeline.
It's a more collaborative process.
So if I, as the owner, suddenly decide I need an extra bathroom added to the plans...
That would fall under the change order process.
Exactly.
It allows for flexibility while ensuring everyone is on the same page regarding the adjustments to the project scope
Timeline.
and, of course, the budget.
That's reassuring.
No one wants a construction project to turn into a budget black hole.
Precisely.
Transparency and clear communication are key here.
Speaking of transparency,
Let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the types of projects where the CCDC 14 really shines.
it seems like a good fit for complex projects.
But is it the right tool for every construction job?
That's a great question.
While the CCDC 14 is a powerful tool,
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
it's best suited for projects where collaboration is essential,
Okay.
where some degree of design evolution during construction is anticipated.
And where having a single point of contact for both design and construction simplifies communication and streamlines decision-making.
So give me a concrete example.
What kind of project would thrive under a CCDC 14 agreement?
Imagine you're building a state-of-the-art research facility.
Okay.
You need flexible spaces that can adapt to evolving research needs and new technologies,
The collaborative nature of the CCDC 14
along with its mechanisms for handling changes.
would be incredibly valuable in that scenario.
That makes sense.
In a fast-paced research environment, being able to adjust to new discoveries or technological advancements without derailing the entire project is essential. Exactly.
The CCDC 14's flexibility makes it a good fit for projects with a degree of inherent uncertainty.
So we've seen how the CCDC 14 works well for complex projects like research facilities.
What about something on a smaller scale?
Say a custom-built home.
That's where things get interesting.
While the CCDC 14 can be used for residential construction...
It's less common than in commercial or industrial settings.
Okay.
Remember, it's a robust contract designed for projects where collaboration and design flexibility are paramount.
So for a typical home build where the design is mostly finalized up front,
And the scope is relatively straightforward.
a different type of contract might be a better fit.
Precisely.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Now, while the CCDC 14 offers numerous advantages,
It's also important to be aware of potential challenges.
okay,
After all, no contract is perfect.
and understanding both sides of the coin is essential for making informed decisions.
I like where you're going with this.
What are some potential drawbacks or challenges that someone considering the CCDC 14 should be aware of?
One thing to consider is the trade-off between control and collaboration.
Okay.
While the CCDC 14 promotes a collaborative environment.
It does mean that as the owner, you might have less direct control over certain design details.
Once you've established your initial requirements and the project is underway.
So if I suddenly decide I want to change the entire layout of the kitchen because I saw a cool new design on a cooking show,
that might be a problem.
well, let's just say that significant changes
Especially those not driven by necessity.
can be tricky and potentially costly under a CCDC 14 contract.
It's not to say they're impossible.
But they need to be carefully considered in consultation with the design builder.
With a clear understanding of their potential impact on both the budget and the timeline.
That makes sense.
It's about striking a balance.
Giving the design builder the freedom to innovate within the agreed-upon framework.
While also protecting your vision for the project.
Exactly.
Clear communication.
Sharing realistic expectations up front.
And embracing that collaborative spirit are crucial for a successful project under the CCDC 14.
So while the CCDC 14 emphasizes collaboration,
it also highlights the importance of clear communication and realistic expectations from the outset.
This seems especially important when it comes to changes in the project scope.
And how those changes are priced.
Can you elaborate on how the CCDC 14 handles these situations?
Absolutely.
You've hit upon a crucial aspect of the CCDC 14.
Remember those change orders and change directives we discussed earlier?
Pricing those changes fairly and transparently is essential.
The CCDC 14 provides a framework for doing just that.
So if a change is needed, how does that get priced under this contract?
The CCDC 14 lays out a clear process for this.
Okay.
Ideally, you'd have pre-agreed upon unit rates for common materials and labor.
Think of it like a price list.
Okay.
If you know a change will require X amount of lumber, you already have a set price per unit.
Right.
But in construction, not everything can be anticipated, right?
Definitely not.
Especially with those unexpected surprises we talked about.
Exactly.
So for those unique situations, or if a unit rate wasn't established beforehand,
Okay.
the CCDC 14 encourages quotes and negotiations between the owner and design builder.
And this is crucial for you, the listener. Documentation is key.
Right.
Make sure everything is clearly outlined and agreed upon in writing to avoid disputes later on.
It's like that old saying.
Get it in writing.
Absolutely.
It protects both sides.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
From risk allocation to change management.
But there's one overarching theme I want to emphasize about the CCDC 14.
It's designed to facilitate collaboration, not confrontation.
It's more about teamwork and problem solving than pointing fingers.
You've got it.
While no contract can eliminate every potential disagreement,
Right.
the CCDC 14 provides a framework for working together constructively.
Even when challenges inevitably arise.
So to wrap things up for our listeners today,
What's the key takeaway here?
the CCDC 14 can be a powerful tool for the right project.
It encourages a collaborative approach.
Provides mechanisms for handling changes effectively.
And allocates risk in a way that encourages everyone to bring their A game to the table.
And remember, no matter what contract you choose,
Clear communication, realistic expectations.
and that spirit of partnership are absolutely essential for a successful construction project.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, there you have it.
A deep dive into the intricate world of the CCDC 14 contract.
We've explored its inner workings
Weighed its pros and cons.
and hopefully given you, the listener, a much clearer understanding of this unique agreement.
It's been a pleasure sharing my insights.
If you're planning a major construction project,
Especially one where collaboration and design flexibility are key.
the CCDC 14 is definitely worth considering.
But as always, do your research, seek expert advice tailored to your specific project.
I make sure you're comfortable with all the nuances of this fascinating contract.
And who knows, maybe we'll even dive into other types of construction contracts in future episodes.
Until then, happy building.